And during my internship, I also completed an elective rotation in the University of Cambridge. It was under trauma surgery, emergency medicine, and neurocritical care unit. I spent 2 months there, and definitely I personally felt that it really helped me understand the UK system a lot better, how the NHS works, and if UK was really something that I wanted to do. So let's talk about today what we are going to cover. We're going to discuss what PLAB is, what's UKMLA, and how you can plan your entire journey so that you don't have to waste 2, 3, or even 4 years trying to understand what to do, what's next, and so you can maximize your chance in order to get your residency place in the UK, what things will boost your CV, and lastly, what options you even have to work as a doctor in the UK in terms of doing your residency. All right, so first, PLAB or UKMLA. So PLAB is what we know as international medical graduates. This is the exam for the UK pathway. You have 2 parts, as you can see, PLAB 1 and PLAB 2, or in the recent years from next year, GMC has said that they're going to change the name to UKMLA, and it's going to be replaced by AKT or CPSA. So far, is it good? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So this PLAB or UKMLA, this is the equivalent of license exams for the UK. Once you pass both of these exams, you can apply for your GMC registration, which will allow you to work as a doctor in the UK. There are no scores like USMLE. You just have to pass or fail the exam. That's all. It does not matter if you got the highest mark or you just passed. It really does not matter. It will not reflect when you're applying for jobs. So bear that in mind. Do not push yourself too much. If you think that you have to get the highest mark, it's really nothing about that. Secondly, the PLAB and MLA. As you can see in this screenshot, I took this from the GMC website, and they have explained it really well. For us, medical graduates from outside the UK, it will remain PLAB. What's going to change is nothing. Absolutely nothing is going to change. There will be people who will come to you and say, oh, you know, UKMLA, it's completely different, it's harder, they replaced it. They haven't. It will still be PLAB. The only thing that's going to change is that they will make PLAB so that whatever you're studying, whatever the exam is going to be, it will cover the MLA content map. And let me tell you, it's not different. It's exactly the same thing. For us, nothing changes. What changes is only for UK graduates. They will have to sit for this license exam as well. So previously, they didn't have to do anything. They would finish their medical school and start working right away. No license exams, nothing. They got their registration. But now they're standardizing the test so that UK graduates have to sit for it as well. Just so everyone has the same clinical knowledge so that it's a standardized test. This is the only purpose for it. Nothing else, absolutely. All right. Next, regarding what's PLAB 1 and PLAB 2. So firstly, PLAB 1 is an MCQ exam. You have 180 MCQs in it, and you have to do it within 180 minutes, which is 3 hours. So if it seems like, yeah, probably it's not bad, believe me, it is that bad. It is difficult. Everything seems okay. The questions are not like, you know, USMLE level difficult, but then when it comes to really thinking and answering the questions, 3 hours is not enough for 180 MCQs. What is the pass score? So it varies, but usually the safest that you can remain is around 116 out of 180. So you need to get 116 MCQ questions correct. Secondly, what is it based on? How do you exactly study? So a lot of the questions is going to be clinical knowledge. It's going to be about drugs, drug interactions. In this disease, what drugs do you give? What is the diagnosis? I'm probably making it really simple and telling you very directly, but it's not as direct. There will be some history, but the questions are not as lengthy as USMLE. It is easier, but you have to study for it. You can't study for just a month and think I'm going to wing it. It's not probably going to work out for the best. So I would suggest that the max amount of time that you should be studying is somewhere between 3 to 4, 5 months if you want to take it very slow, but 3 to 4 months of intense studying is more than enough. It's absolutely doable while you're doing your internship or you're working. You do not need to take leaves. You really don't need any of that. You can study while you're working on the side. The pass rate as of 2022 that GMC has released says that it's 70.9%, meaning that out of every 100 people, 70 people are going to pass, 30 people will not pass. So that probably says that it's not the easiest exam, but it's also not the hardest exam. If you work hard, if you have the right strategies, you can pass it. The resources that I personally used were PLABable and PLAB1 keys. PLABable is this amazing question bank that has a lot of different questions in every single category that you can possibly imagine that will be included in the exam. They have these mock tests. They have big mocks that are very similar to the real exam. So they release these big mocks right 1 month just before the actual exam. And what happens is that if you're preparing for your PLAB exam and you sit for the PLABable mock, big mock, there is a good chance that the question difficulty level will be like the PLAB, real PLAB exam. So I really recommend to go for big mock PLABable if you can. You have to purchase it. Again, it doesn't come with a subscription. I think it costs £25, something like that, but it's really worth it. It definitely stays up to date with the guidelines, any changes in the guidelines, what kind of questions you could be having, the difficulty of the question. So it's a really good preparation material. PLAB1 keys on the side. These are basically notes. They don't really have question banks, but these notes, they will cover everything that you need to know for the PLAB exam, and it has questions from the past years as well. Difficult questions or questions that they thought were very important, they include the past questions. So if you study PLAB1 keys really as notes, you don't have to study for anything else. It's more than enough. Med revisions, so I haven't used it, but some people have said that med revisions are also good. The questions are a bit more difficult. They have way more questions. I think they have around 3,000 questions or something, but I personally can't really vouch for it because I didn't use it. Now, how much does it cost? It costs about £255. So you have to check whenever you're sitting for your PLAB1. This is not going to stay constant. They change it every couple of years or so. I mean, when I say they change it, they're really increasing the fees a lot. All right. And the first thing, what I had said first, was that the time management. You have to be very savvy, very smart with your time. You have to work hard on trying to get the best time you can when practicing for this exam. Believe me, clinical knowledge is not going to be the hardest thing for you. It's not even going to be anything close to hard to you. The one thing that'll be difficult is how to manage the time. You're under exam stress in a new place, and it's not a computer-based exam. It's paper-based, which means you have to fill out the MCQs yourself with a pencil, and that takes time. It's not enough to do it just within 1 minute per question. You have to practice it before you go for the exam. So yes, the takeaway is that find out ways to manage your time really well and be really smart with your time. Do not waste on questions that you don't know how to do. Leave it, come back to it later. All right, now the second part of the exam, PLAB2. It's an OSCE-based exam. When I say OSCE, I mean clinical, not OSCE practical. So how is it different from the kind of exams that we did in medical school? This one is very patient-involved management. It means you don't just learn how to do history taking, you also have to know how to manage the patient. And how exactly are you managing the patient? As an FY2 UK doctor. This is a UK exam. You have to know how to think like a UK doctor, how to talk like one. They're not going to pass you if you simply just talk about, well, you have some pain, so I'm going to give you ibuprofen or paracetamol or some kind of painkiller, and I will observe you for the next 2 hours. No. You have to know what a UK doctor at your level would be doing, if they can prescribe a medication or not, and where to correctly refer the patient. So this is probably the hardest thing about PLAB 2, because we're not used to how things are done in the UK, obviously, because we are coming from outside. We really don't have any idea that from this department to that department, how exactly do we do referral system in our level as an FY2? What are we expected to do? So this exam is exactly all about that. You have completed internship, and after that, how confident are you in managing a patient on your own? And in what situations do you involve the senior doctors? All right. It involves 16 stations and 2 rest stations. So in total, you get 18 stations. It's a very long exam, it's tiring, and it's 3 hours long. What exactly do you need to pass? You have to pass 10 out of 16 stations. It sounds easy, right? But it's not that easy. And you also have to pass the minimum pass mark of each station on that day. So let's say that for every single station, the pass mark is different. They assess the station depending on the difficulty of the candidates. So in an easy station, the pass mark can be as high as, let's say, 11. And if you get even 10.5, you're failing the station. You need that 11 to pass the station. And if it's a difficult station, maybe the pass mark is going to be 6, 7, 8, something like that. So if you get less than the minimum pass mark in that station, you're failing the station. So it does not matter if you pass in the total station score, you have to pass every single of those 10 stations as well. It could be that your total score was, let's say, 120 out of 160, but you did not pass 10 stations. In one of you scored really high in 8 stations, but then in 2 of the stations you didn't score so well. Even though your overall is high, you're not going to pass it. You have to pass individually 10, and you have to pass the minimum of each station on that day as well. All right, the pass rate of PLAB 2 is a little low than PLAB 1, as you can see. It's 64.8%. So you have to be a bit careful about this. There are people who has to take multiple resits for the exam. They sit for it like 2 times, 3 times, and so on. Resources. So one of the resources for PLAB 2, I mean, it's a clinical exam and it's OSCE. How exactly do you study for it? You'll see a lot of people telling you that you need to go to an academy. They will teach you everything. And academies have these like 2 weeks of intense course. They literally take everything you need to know about PLAB 2 and squeeze it into 2 weeks of classes. It's crazy. Every single day, you'll be doing the classes from like 9 a.m. UK time until 8, 7 p.m., like non-stop with only 1 hour in break. I personally attended one of those and I didn't think it was really helpful. You can't, believe me, you can't sit and concentrate for that long. It just doesn't work that way. We are bound to get distracted. And how much can you really take from 2 weeks? It's just not possible. However, academies still do exist, but GMC will never suggest them to you. You can see in their website, they will not recommend or even say anything against academies. Academies just exist for the purpose of it, really that. Some people also study by themselves, so they collect the notes that these academies have and they just don't enroll, as in pay to attend an academy. They just study the notes with themselves and practice with their friends or any other study buddies that they can find. And lastly, some people recently, for the past, I would say 3-4 years, some doctors, they have started doing mind maps, which means that these flow charts, beautiful diagrams covering every single disease that you have to know about, and it covers everything from data gathering to management to IPS, interpersonal skills, your communication skills as a doctor, what it should be. So it's not an academy, but these are also different kinds of notes, and you have to buy them. Usually it's not available to find it for free in the internet, so you pay a subscription fee and you get access to it and you study from those. And I personally think mind maps are really great because you have full control over how much you're studying over each day. And unlike traditional notes, you know, where it's like just lines and words after words, these mind maps, they really get stuck in your head. You can remember the entire topic will be covered in one single page. So it's easier to remember than just going over notes that someone else has made. But it's absolutely up to you when you're preparing for PLAB 2, what suits you and your studying techniques. The right thing would be to take it very seriously and actually study it really well. All right. Next, so let's go and have a deep dive into what PLAB 1 is. So firstly, what are the requirements to even book for the exam? So first, when you're booking for PLAB 1, you will need to have sat and passed your final MBBS exam. What do I mean by that? It means you do not have to be in your internship or even have finished internship. Let's say, usually people who we are from Saudi Arabia, our medical schools, we have our final exams in June, around like end of June, May. So that means once you have finished your last exam of medical school, you can go ahead and open your GMC account because they will ask you for a date. When was your last exam and when was the last pass date of that exam? So once you get your grades that you have passed the exam, go ahead, open the account. Next, what do you need? Verified English test scores. It means you need to have English tests before you even can book the exam. Without it, you're not going to be able to book your PLAB 1 exam. And of course, you need a bank card when you're paying for the exam. Without that, there aren't really any options. You have to pay it online. Location-wise, you can sit for PLAB 1 in many different cities. So GMC has like a very big list of all the countries and the cities it covers. Definitely look into it. What city is convenient for you, where you live, if it's even available there or you have to travel. So find out all about that before you go ahead and book the exam. Now, PLAB 1 is only conducted 4 times a year. So you can't just decide, I'm going to sit for it next month. It has to be when the exam's happening. It takes place in Feb, May, August, and November every year. All right, let's look at the English test scores. And because England is an English-speaking country, they do require a bit higher English scores. If you're taking IELTS, it has to be academic. I have written it academic here because that's what GMC says. It cannot be general training. It cannot be IELTS, UKVI. It has to be IELTS academic. You need at least a 7 in each domain. You need 7 in speaking, writing, learning, and reading, and a total of 7.5. So let's say you got 7 in all of them, but then your total is 7. That's not acceptable. You need to have at least 7 in each, and your total has to be a 7.5. All your scores has to be within the same test. There is an option in IELTS where if you want to improve your score, you just give that single part of the exam again. They won't accept that. All of this has to be done within the same test and in the most recent sitting. So let's say you took like 3 tests and in one of them you scored a 7, but then the second one you scored less than 7, you scored a 6.5. You can't do that. You have to resit again so that you get a 7 again, because they will check the dates and it has to be the most recent IELTS exam that you sat for that you have to submit. There's an alternative as well. You can also go for OET, and OET is relatively easier than IELTS. It's easier to score. You have to take the medicine version of it because you're an MBBS graduate, you're a doctor, so you have to sit for the medicine one. OET can be of 3 kinds: on paper, computer, or at home. So all 3 of these are acceptable. You can do whichever fits your bill. You need a B in each domain here. And just like IELTS, you need to have all of these grades within the same sitting. It can't be a retake of like just one of the domains. All right. Now, we know that both IELTS and OET, or really any English test, the biggest problem with it is that they only stay valid for 2 years, which means that unless you finish all your exams within 2 years and apply for GMC registration, you might have to retake your exam. And it's not fun. It can be really annoying. So what GMC recently has done is that they said you don't need to take IELTS or OET again if your IELTS or OET is less than 3 years old and you have passed PLAB 2 less than 2 months. So let's say I took my exam right now. I've got a timeline, so I'll explain it properly depending on that. Okay, so let's look at this. This is the timeline, and I'm going to explain you using this how, in case you're wondering if you have to sit for IELTS again or not, or just to even plan better so that you don't have to sit for IELTS in the future. Let's say you sat your IELTS or OET exam in December. So right now it's December, it's ending. You sat somewhere within this month. Then 2025, not 2024, the year after, 2025, you're sitting for the earliest PLAB 1 exam, which is February. You can't sit before that. It starts from February and ends in November. And then somewhere in 2025 later, after you have passed your PLAB 1, you're sitting for your PLAB 2. You can apply for your GMC registration if you're applying for a registration in early 2026. What does that mean? It means if it's somewhere within January or Feb max, only then you can apply for your GMC registration. But then it's going to depend on when you sat your PLAB 2. If you sat your PLAB 2 in December, then yes, you can apply for your registration, even though your IELTS will be expired because you sat for it in 2023. But because you sat your PLAB 2 in December 2025, you can go ahead and apply for the GMC registration. However, if you sat for your PLAB 2 in December and you did not apply, even in Feb, you're applying for it in April, May, or June, or even later of 2026, this is not going to be acceptable, and you have to go and sit your IELTS or OET again and get the required scores. So it's not just sitting it, you have to get the required scores, which are basically that I discussed here, that you need 7 and total 7.5 in IELTS or B in OET. All right, so how to avoid this so that you don't have to sit for this really annoying English test again and again? What you can do is, firstly, you need to see when sitting for the English exam is going to not waste your time and book your PLAB 1 exam the earliest. So, and I'll explain that bit as well, but let's look at this timeline. You've got in June next year, 2024, if you start with IELTS, you sit for your exam, then there is a good chance that by the time next year in 2025, you sit for PLAB 1 or PLAB 2, what's going to happen is it's just going to be one year of difference. So your IELTS or your OET is still going to be valid. And then later in 2026, when you are going to apply for a GMC registration, you can still apply for it without worrying if it's expired or not. I hope this makes sense. So one of the reasons why am I explaining you about this timeline? So the problem with the PLAB pathway or the UK pathway is that because so many people are sitting for it, you can't find exam dates or seats as easily. Literally, it will take you one whole year, just like you literally have to book your exam a year before you sit for the exam. It is that competitive. So you have to be very smart. You have to understand what is the earliest time you can book the exam so that you don't waste a lot of time. Let's look at this one. This year, in November 18th, GMC released seats for next year's May, August, and November. If you can see, they released dates for next year's exam in this November. So a year ahead. You have to book your exams a year ahead in time. This is one of the reasons why you have to be very smart about when you should be sitting for your English exams. Otherwise, you'll have to keep taking them one more time and waste money and time, energy, just like overall feel really burnt out for absolutely no reason. That's why the best option would be to understand during what times. Can you please mute yourself? Thank you. All right. So that's why it's really important to understand during what times GMC is going to release the seats. These seats are not available at any time. You cannot just open your account and go and see that there will be like an exam seat available. It's very competitive. When I say very competitive, it means that within literally a couple of hours, all the seats will be taken. None of the seats in anywhere in the world, it will be available. So as you can see, one of the patterns to understand is this year in November, they release seats for next year's May, August, and November. So what about the February exam seats? They released it in June. In June, they released seats for only February and May. The May seats you see here, there are probably just a few ones left that people canceled their exams or didn't get filled out. So they're just re-releasing these dates. But in May, they're not going to be, it's not going to be completely empty. It's only going to be a few seats. And then August and November are the main ones where you get the most seats available in your cities that you want to sit for. So 2 dates, June and November, is when GMC releases the seats. You have to be very prepared. You have to have your English test and you have to have everything ready so that you can book the exams without wasting any time. If you miss out this opportunity, you might have to wait another 6 to 7 months to wait until GMC releases the seats. So be really careful, be very smart, and keep like track of during what months GMC is going to announce the dates. So here you can see what GMC says. So when they're releasing the dates on 18th November, you have to provide your English language evidence by November 2023. Be careful about that. If you're sitting for an exam in November and the test results do not come out by November 9th, you cannot book the exam anymore. You will be exempted. So what you can do is plan that you're going to sit for the exam end of October so that by November, and this is only for IELTS. For OET, I think the timeline is a bit different because the exam, the test results take about a month. So you need to look into it and think that if November is when they will release the tests, and if you're taking IELTS, then you'll be safe by taking the exam end of October, have your grades by November, and then open your account and submit your English scores to get verified. If everything's okay, they verify it and they say this is accepted, when they're releasing seats on 18 November, you can go ahead and book your exam. So in the GMC website, you will also find these dates, upcoming PLAB 1 test and closing dates. This is not applicable for us. This is only for really special people who get seats through high priority list. And that only comes, I'll explain that later during my talk. This is only for people when they're applying for training posts, let's say. And in training posts, because they have a very strict timeline by what time people should be getting their GMC registration, by when they should finish their PLAB 1 and PLAB 2. So when you email or you email GMC saying that I'm going to apply for this training post and I have already applied, I got longlisted, or like, you know, I finished the first step of the process, they will put your account in high priority list. So you will be able to view any canceled seats or any seats that they keep for these people. But this does not apply to normal people like us who are not applying for residency options directly through for the PLAB exams. So don't get confused by it when you see it in their website. don't think that, oh, I mean, it says that by 21st September is the overseas closing date, so maybe I can book the exam later. It's not going to work that way. Okay, so my timeline. What did I do, and how could I try and do the exam during my internship? So I started my internship in July. Then in November last year, 2022, I sat my IELTS because I knew that they're going to release the dates around November, December. So I did, and they usually announce it a month ago as well. So I was mentally prepared that when they announce it, I'm going to sit for the exam and get my test scores. So I sat for my IELTS end of November, and then they released the seats in December, first week of December. And when they released it, it was only for August and November. So I had to book my exam 8 months ahead of time because there were no seats for Feb or May, nothing. And then this year, 2023 August, I sat for my PLAB 1 and I passed it, and I booked for my PLAB 2 in March. And you can see that there is a pretty big difference between August and March, about 6 months between PLAB 1 and PLAB 2. There's a reason why as well. Because even though PLAB 2 takes place multiple times a year, nearly every day of the week, it is difficult to find time. You won't find dates even within a month's time. Because a lot of people fail it, they have to retake the exams. As a result of that, it's just not possible to find dates that close to time. You have to think that the closest date you will get is going to be 2 or 3 months away from when you're looking. So my results got out in September 23rd, end of September. And the closest date, the earliest date that I could see was from February. So February and then March, April, May, June. That's it. They only released seats for 4 months. All right. Now, PLAB 2. So what is PLAB 2? Like I said, it's an OSCE exam. How can you, there is a mistake, it's supposed to say passed PLAB 1. So you can only book for PLAB 2 if you have passed PLAB 1. It's not like UKMLA where you can sit for any of the step exams however you want. You have to pass PLAB 1, only then you can book PLAB 2. Without it, you can't. You do not need to have valid English test scores. So if your IELTS is expired, don't worry about it. You don't have to take it now for PLAB 2. You can go ahead and book the exam. And of course, again, you need a bank card because you have to pay online. This exam can only be taken in Manchester in the UK. So there are 2 centers, Hardman Street or Hardman Square. You cannot take it anywhere else. So you have to be very financially and mentally prepared that you have to travel, and it's going to be an expensive exam. The exams, like I said, throughout the year, it happens literally, I think, 6 days a week. But even then, it's so hard to find the times. So be smart and plan ahead. Think about what's the earliest dates you want, when can you manage to get your leave or a study gap so that you can book the exams at the earliest convenience. And another important thing, you can also take this exam during your internship. If your college is really nice and it gives you leaves, and if you have managed to pass PLAB 1 during your internship, somehow you got very lucky and you got the seat very early on in your internship, then you can go ahead and finish PLAB 2 during your internship as well. You won't be able to get your GMC registration during internship, but the exams, you can do it. So once you finish your internship, you can go ahead and then apply for GMC registration. I hope that makes sense. Now, so these academies that I was talking about for PLAB 2, is it really important to attend them? I personally think yes and no. It's not very important. People have passed without it, and you can probably pass it too if you have very good English skills, if you're really good with your clinical skills as well, you are really good during your medical school, and you worked hard, you have a good, solid knowledge, then probably no. Because We live in the times of internet. Everything is available. If you're looking in the right place, any notes, anything you want, everything is available in the internet. You don't have to really spend money to find any materials. So the good sides is that you can easily find study buddies that you can practice PLAB 2 stations with. You won't have to like manually put in the effort to find someone who's going to fit in your time and your exam time. So that's kind of like out of the way. You have a proper procedure stations where you can practice. So PLAB 2 is a mixture. It's all history taking, it's counseling, it's breaking bad news that like, someone got cancer or something else. And there are emergency stations as well. You have to do ABCD approach. There will be a talking mannequin. You have to manage just like real patient. You have to show how to take bloods. You have to show how to do cannulation. So there are practical aspects to it. And it's easy if you are taking an academy because they will provide you with those stuff. They will provide you with the dummies. They will provide you with the needles and stuff. So you can practice on that. These academies, they also offer full mocks. These mocks are really important. Some of the academies do really good mocks that will feel like just a real exam. And usually they will do, I think, 2 or 3 mocks, depending on which academy you're going for. But 2, 3 is standard. Usually it's not less than that. And you can also purchase more mocks if you want. I think it's £70 each. But if you already have an academy that you're going to, it's really not needed. You don't have to pay extra mocks. So these mocks, they will feel exactly like the real exam. There will be 16 stations, 2 rest stations. There will be patients, mannequins, and you're supposed to do exactly the way you will be doing in the exam. So this is very good for preparing you for your final exam. And another good thing is that because they're doing everything within 2 weeks, it's very organized and like the structure and approach, it makes a lot more sense as well. But depends. It could make a lot of sense to you, and it could not make sense to you as well. Some people find it good, some people don't find it good. But the thing is, they have all the notes, they have all the approaches depending on what day, what they're doing. So you don't feel as lost. The bad thing is that these academies and their notes, because they're doing like a cookie cutter approach, they're just giving out the script, the data gathering, what you're supposed to say to every single person. You sound like a robot. It's like you're memorizing the entire notes and you're just letting it out in front of the patient. You're not making conversation with the patient, which can sound really unnatural and not really great because let's face it, as doctors, one of the job's requirement is that really good communication skills. If you can't do that, the patient is not going to be satisfied with you, and more likely you're going to fail the station as well. Second thing is FOMO, fear of missing out. Nearly every single people that you'll meet, I would say like 9 out of 10 people, they'll say that they are attending some kind of academy. And you might think, oh no, because I haven't taken an academy, what if I fail? What if my chances of passing are low because I'm not going to these academies and everybody else is going? Sometimes they can have not really good instructors. These academies, a lot of the times, they can be run with just very new PLAB to past exam doctors. So let's say if you have passed your exam and you did really well and passed a lot of stations, let's say 14, 15, they might hire you and they'll say that, oh, like for 2 months or 1 month, however long you are in the UK, we're going to pay you and you can take these classes. So sometimes the instructors are not great because they're just as clueless as you are. They pass their exams and they don't have a lot of experience about the PLAB 2 exam. And it can be quite expensive. Nearly all of the academies, they're almost £550 for the course. So it's 2 weeks of classes, and then you can go in person to the academy and attend for as long as you want. Some people attend for 1 whole month. They practice by themselves. They use the facilities that these academies have, or they simply just study with other people in the academies, Or sometimes they even retake the classes again, which is all included in this £550. And it might seem like a great deal, but really, I mean, 2 weeks of class and you will be just repeating the class again if you want to attend. 550 is quite a lot of money. So it's always good to think ahead and decide if this is something you want or not. All right. Next, the total cost of taking PLAB 2 exam. PLAB 2, because you have to go to Manchester, it's quite expensive. You have to keep that in mind when you're sitting for your PLAB 1 and when your PLAB 1 results will come out. The exam itself costs about £934. So almost £1,000, which is in Saudi riyals, nearly 5,000 riyals. The academy itself, like I said, is £550. The visa for 6 months to the UK would be £150. Accommodation for 1 month could be somewhere between £600 to £1,000. It all depends on what location. So these academies, sometimes they are in Manchester or Liverpool or London. And of course, I'm very sure everyone knows how expensive London is. If you're choosing an academy that's in London, it will easily be around £800 to £900 for the accommodation. The return flight to the UK and back to where you are, depending on which country you are, it's variable, but usually it's around £600 to £800. Food and other expenses, you know, your daily expenses, the bus, or like if you want to travel somewhere or not, somewhere it can be for a month £500 to £600, but this is entirely dependent on you, how much money you're spending. So if you're spending less, then you don't need £500. You'll be fine with 300 or 400, whatever you can manage. And I suggest to always keep emergency money, at least £1,000 if you can, because you just don't know what's going to go wrong. And it's a different country. It's a foreign land. You're alone. You might not get the help. So it's always good to go prepared. In total, all of this will cost you around £4,300 to £5,000. This is the whole PLAB 2, going, coming back, and everything. And it doesn't involve doing something extra that you want to do. This number is not fixed, obviously. A lot of these things, especially your accommodation, flight, and food, is going to be completely on you, how much money you're spending. So this is just a ballpark, an estimation. Keep it in mind. Don't freak out thinking this is the fixed amount. You can probably spend less than this. Okay, so some extra tips to help you. I cannot stress this enough. You have to plan really well ahead. This exam is not like USMLE where you can find the exam dates whenever you want. The drawback in USMLE is that it's a difficult exam, but you don't have to worry about getting the dates and everything. PLAB is not relatively as hard as USMLE, but then the hassle, the stress of booking the exam, finding exam dates, believe me, you will burn out. You will get really frustrated if you don't plan it really well. You have to start studying soon after you book your PLAB 2 exam, if you're booking a very early seat. If your exam is only 3 months away, you have to start studying very soon, within the first week or second week of your booking. And even before that, even before your results has come out, you have just sat your PLAB 1, start looking into academies if you want to attend or not. Just look at reviews. Ask your friends, what academy did they go to? Was it good? What was the location? What was the what were the instructors like? How was the mock exam? Did they have good facilities? Did they have good mannequins where they could practice? Read about these reviews even on Facebook groups. There are many Facebook groups for IMGs in UK or PLAB pathway, and you can just join it. You can ask questions. You'll see people ranting or complimenting good stuff. So definitely take a look at those things. Secondly, if you want to sit for your PLAB 2 as soon as your PLAB 1 comes out, then start working on your visa paper. It takes work and it takes time. You'll have to arrange a lot of things. Again, it depends on what passport you have. If your passport allows you to travel to the UK without like a visa or a visa on entry, it's fine. Don't worry about it too much. But then if you have to apply for a visa, then do care about that. Do look out what paperwork you need. In the meantime, once you have booked your PLAB 2 exam, it's really important to try and find a study partner. Believe me, it might be one of the hardest things because you need someone who's on your level. If you speak really good English, you need someone who speaks good English as well, because you don't have the time to teach or correct someone else's grammatical mistakes or teach them how to speak in English. Unless that happens, you will struggle. So you need someone who has pretty kind of like the same knowledge as you in English and in clinical studies. Otherwise, you will suffer, and without a study partner, you just can't really study it very well because you're role playing as doctor and there will be patients. So you have to speak out. Otherwise, you're not going to learn it too well. Consider doing an attachment. So a clinical attachment is essentially an observership in the UK. If you have the time and budget, definitely look into it. And because of how competitive UK is getting, these attachments and trying to find them is also a really big headache. You have to email maybe 10, 20, 50 hospitals. You have to find consultant emails, and you have to tell them that, hey, so I finished my PLAB 1, I'm interested in becoming a UK doctor. Can I come and do 2 weeks or 4 weeks of clinical attachment with you? I'm very interested to find out how NHS works. You really have to step up your game and really look into it, because once you have sat your PLAB 1 and your grades come out and you've booked your PLAB 2, there's just not enough time. So start step by step. Don't freak out. Don't start getting anxiety attacks thinking this is a lot of stuff to do. It is a lot of stuff to do, but you'll get it done, because people before you have done it and people after you will do it as well. So you can do it too. Don't worry. All right. Let's say you sat your PLAB 2, you passed it, congratulations. Now what? What comes after it? Like I said, you can do clinical attachment. A clinical attachment is observership, as I said. You can apply for registration, your GMC registration. Then after you get registration, point 3, you can start applying for non-training jobs, or you can wait and apply for training jobs when the application opens. Entirely up to you. The world is your oyster. The only thing that's stopping you from coming to the UK is just getting a job. That's all. You are a UK registered doctor after you have got your registration. So you don't have to worry about anything else, but just on managing to get a job. Okay. So before I move on, I would like to talk about EPIC verification. What is it? It's basically how will UK register system, GMC, how will they know that you really did go to your medical school and your certificate is real? You have to do EPIC verification. And you can do this EPIC verification after you have sat your PLAB 1 exam, or really anytime once you have finished your internship and you have your graduation certificate and your internship certificate. So first you have to create an account in ECFMG EPIC. You need your passport, a colored scan passport copy, a picture of you, it has to be colored, and information about your med school, which means they have a list of medical schools, all right, when you're opening your account. And your medical school's name should be in that list. If it's not, then I'm not sure what's the procedure, but I'm very sure you can try and get it registered. But the whole point is your school's name should be in ECFMG. Otherwise, you cannot open an account. So you send a request to open your account, and ECFMG is going to see if you're a real person or you're a scam, whatever it is. Then they will say, okay, your account is created. Now come and verify yourself that you are a real human being. And that is through Notary Cam. Notary Cam is just this service that they provide. You have to come on a video call, hold out your passport, and tell them your name out loud. and they'll see if your passport picture and your face matches or not. Very easy peasy, nothing to worry about. After that, once Notary Cam verifies that yes, your passport, your documents that you uploaded are real, you go ahead and upload your medical certificate, your graduation certificate. They send this certificate, ECFMG will send this certificate to your medical school. So if you're from Saudi Arabia, you have the advantage and you don't have to worry about going in person, because Ibn Sina, Baderji, from what I know, they do a very good job and they reply to ECFMG emails very fast. So you'll get their verification done literally less than a day. I sent mine around night, and then when I woke up in the morning at 8, I got an email that my certificate was verified. So don't worry about that. But in case your medical college does not have an email address, then you will have to go, and you have to go in person and you have to tell them, so hey, what email should I give? Because they're going to send you a form or my certificates, and you have to reply back saying that this is real and I was a student graduating from here. But otherwise, you don't have to worry about it. All right. Now, the most probably important thing in this entire webinar, how to boost your CV so that your chances of working as a doctor in the UK is better than others. Okay, the do's and don'ts. Do not have an unorganized, confusing format of your CV. Be very clean, clear, have a good outline of what you want to mention in your CV. Did you get very good grades? Mention it. Did you get top of the class or top of the course in some of the years? Mention that. Did you organize anything? Write about that. But don't just write a simple bio, your GPA, and then what that you finished your internship in Ministry of Health hospitals or whatever, and that's it. Be very thorough. Mention everything that you have done and be ready to have every single certificate of whatever you did, whatever achievements you have to show it. They might not need it now. This is for jobs. No more GMC registration. GMC does not care about your CV, okay? They just care about PLAB 1 and PLAB 2. This is for when you're applying for jobs. So when they're hiring you, they will ask. A lot of the times, HR will tell. So these stuffs that you have claimed, just provide evidence for it. So you might have to provide evidence for, like, you know, saying that, oh, I organized a campaign, or I went to that country to do a medical elective for 2 months. Whatever it is, be prepared and have the documents ready. Do not claim anything that you did not do. It's unethical, and you will get struck off from GMC. They might even revoke your license. So don't do this. Don't just make up some lies. You worked very hard to be here. Okay. Secondly, not having very good English in your CV. What do I mean by good English? I'm not saying that speak like an American or a British person. I'm saying that don't have typos, spelling mistakes, grammatical mistakes. I mean, it's really easy. Just go to Grammarly or some kind of AI tool and then check if there is any punctuation errors, any kind of grammatical mistakes. It's really easy. It's not difficult at all. So do check for that. If it's really possible, try not to have a really large clinical gap or history of unemployment. So let's say you graduated now and then you're unable to find a job. Try to do something. Even if you're in Saudi, try to do a clinical attachment or work as a GP, whatever it might be. But don't just sit and think, I'm going to not do anything and focus only on getting PLAB exams done and getting my GMC registration, because that doesn't look good. You remember what I keep saying, that it is getting competitive. You're not just competing with people around you, people you see or you know who are applying for UK. It's literally the whole world. You'll have doctors coming from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Africa, even Mexico. You've got a lot of people who are exactly in the same level as you. So you have to prove them that you're better than others. Don't just go to medical school and get good grades. Try to do something else. Have some extracurricular activities. Try to organize something, go to conferences, have CPD points, do a couple of research, even if you're not writing it. Simply just do data gathering. Add something to your CV. Don't just leave it empty. If you're still in medical school, you've got so many opportunities to do literally anything you want. When you're a medical student, believe me, you have way more opportunities than when you graduate, because you can apply for electives, you can take courses somewhere you want to, and you don't even need to have a medical license. You don't need to sit for the assembly. Because you're a medical student, you can do it, and you're protected automatically. You're not going to worry about having your license revoked or like canceled in case you make a mistake. So do whatever you want. During the summers, just go do 1 month of clinical rotation in something you're interested in, or even if it's just for 2 weeks, just do something. Don't just sit and think that, oh, because people say that getting a job in the UK is really easy, maybe I don't need to be very competitive. You kind of really do need to be competitive. And lastly, recommendation letters. So recommendation letters are big in Saudi Arabia. I know that for a fact because I studied here. But in the UK, nobody really cares. They care about references. So you need people who will give you a very good reference if they're reaching out to a reference and they're asking about you. They don't care if in this recommendation letter it says that you handled 20 patients every day by yourself. So there is no option to like even upload or submit these recommendation letters, to be honest. So don't focus too much on it. If you get it, good for you, keep it, but it's not going to be that beneficial. What you can do is try and get published papers. They really care about that. They don't care how small your role was. You're a medical student, they know that. But do try and see if you can get at least one published paper by the time you're graduating. Try and do clinical audits or QIP. So this might not apply here because Saudi doesn't really understand the idea of clinical audits or quality improvement projects. But if you go to the UK and you're doing an attachment, try and ask the supervisor or the consultant. So I know about clinical audits. Can I take part in it? What is clinical audit? It's basically finding something that's missing. So let's say that the 5 moments of hand hygiene is really important. We all know that. But then in reality, when you're in OPD, do people really follow it? They don't really follow it, honestly. I mean, doctors probably just wear gloves, or even without maybe gloves, they touch the patient and then sometimes wash it, sometimes don't. They just go to writing clinical notes. So this is a standard system that should be followed, but people don't do it. This is something you can do an audit on. However, like I said, because Saudi doesn't recognize it, it's difficult for you to get approvals. So don't worry about it. But you can do something like this in the UK. If you see that hand hygiene is not being properly monitored and practiced, you can tell the consultant. So I'm noticing that 5 moments of hand hygiene is not followed here. Can I do an audit based on this? And if you're curious about audits more, feel free to ask me at the end of this webinar. I'll try and explain you as briefly as possible. Secondly, teaching. Really, really, really important. The whole UK system, NHS, is based on teaching people who are junior to you. So they really care about if you have teaching experience or not. If after graduation you can get a job as a TA, it will look starred on your CV. They will love it. And if you're working as a doctor and you're still doing some kind of teaching on the side, that looks even amazing. You're doing a clinical job and you have teaching on the side. Absolutely like beautiful. What you can do is, when you're a medical student, I mean, you're a student yourself, so you can't really show teaching in that sense. Once you graduate, try to have small sessions for medical students that you know, junior students that you know from your university, and teach them a couple of topics, like literally DKA, acute asthma attack, whatever you want. Do it for 6 sessions, 1 hour every session, and then ask one of the doctors, can I have this stamped and verified by you that I did this 6 hours of teaching for these students? Because like I said, you need document for whatever you're claiming. You cannot say, I did this and not have documents. You can say it, but they're not going to count it. So you would have wasted a lot of time and effort doing nothing in the end. Fourth, maintaining a foundation in your portfolio. What I mean by that is try and have an Excel sheet and record everything that you're doing. Did you take blood today? Write it during, just fill out the form, make a Google form and write that. So for today's activity, I took blood, which is venipuncture. You performed a venipuncture or cannulation, or you assisted in spinal anesthesia or in central line. Literally anything. All these jobs you're doing during your internship, it counts. And it counts even more if you have evidence to show for it. So how can you show evidence? If you have everything properly, beautifully filled out in an Excel sheet, at the end of your rotation, the doctor that you felt was the kindest, the nicest, just go to them, say, hey, can you sign this for me? I need this for my UK residency. They'll happily sign it. Make sure that the consultant, when they're signing it, they have their name, their signature, and their Saudi commission registration number, essentially, because they need that. They need to see that this was signed by a proper consultant. Just think about it always this way, that when you're providing any kind of evidence or proof to someone, how will they know it's real? So this is the way they'll know real, that the consultant's number, registration number, sign, name, email address number, everything's given there, Secondly, leadership, strong clinical knowledge. So this you can't really show. They will verify it when you're doing an interview. Only then they'll find out if you have a good clinical knowledge or not. Leadership qualities. Leadership qualities means that organizing things yourself, and it's quite easy. Or even being group leader or class leader, batch leader, whatever it is, during your time in medical school. It really does count. But get verification. Get a document or a letter from a doctor signed and stamped saying that you were the group leader or the batch leader from this year to this year, because they will need it. What about once you have graduated? How will you show leadership qualities? Well, you can try and manage a campaign, or you can try and do something very small, like an awareness, well, I can't think right now, but I'm very sure that if I come up with something, I will let you know. And the last point, definitely not the least, is UK experience. They really count that. They really do care if, as a student, you had gone to the UK to do an electives there, or you did clinical attachment. It's a huge plus. So this is the thing. It's not mandatory. They do not say anywhere that you need to do this, unlike US and Canada, where these clinical rotations, observerships are mandatory. In the UK, because how competitive it's getting, they do use it to filter out candidates. So they see if someone has UK experience or not. And if you're applying for your first job, any little bit counts. Even if it's just an attachment you did for 2 weeks when you went for your PLAB 2, it will give you a really big benefit. So don't underestimate doing clinical attachments. It's not a must, but if you can afford it, definitely go for it. Okay, next. So, very important thing, clinical attachment and electives. What is the difference? I did an elective when I was a medical student or when I was in internship. They count the internship year that we do in our curriculum, because you don't get your certificate until you finish your internship, right? So technically, you haven't really graduated. And you can apply for electives through that means, like using that loophole. So here's the thing. Electives are only taken when you're a medical student. And a lot of the times, you have to apply through universities mainly. You can't really apply directly through hospitals. They don't have the program for it. Because you're a student, you have to go as a visiting student of that university. So you apply through the university's program, they accept you, and they cover, they protect you essentially. If you make any medical mistakes or whatever, they're the ones, your actual university and the hosting university, they are the ones who are protecting you, okay? You get a lot of hands-on experience because you're a student. And like I said, you're protected by the universities. You can do absolutely whatever you want to learn. I know that venipuncture and these cannulation, these things are not done routinely in Saudi Arabia, but in the UK it's a big deal. You have to learn it because doctors do it, if that makes sense. And if you're going for your elective in the UK as a medical student, you can 100% do it really, really easily. Everyone's going to allow you to do it. They'll be very happy to teach you, and you can learn it firsthand. So a lot of the universities, they have this requirement that you have to be in your final year or the year before. So that means either in your 5th, 6th, or internship year. And these things take time. Don't think that you want to do an elective, let's say, 2 months from now. You can just apply and do it. You have to apply a whole year or a year and a half before. So if you're planning on taking it next summer, you can try and see if the university will accept you now, but there's probably not a very good chance. So what you can do is you can try to apply by next summer for 2026 electives. That way you'll have a better chance of getting accepted. And these things, this clinical elective is also a bit competitive. They do choose the best of the students who are applying, right? Because you're not the only student from Saudi Arabia applying. There are people from China, Malaysia, Singapore, Korea, Germany, like European students. A lot of students apply for it because the idea that like doing clinical electives, they have it in their curriculum as well, and everybody wants to do it somewhere outside of their country. So there is a little bit of competition, but you probably have a better chance if you have a good grades, a good GPA, you have a nice CV, and you can write them a really good email saying that you're very interested and why you're interested, and also say that so you're planning on working as a doctor in the UK, which is going to help you for your future, if that makes sense. Now, attachments are only done for graduate doctors. If you have finished your medical school, you have to go for an attachment. You cannot apply for an elective anymore. It's more observership. So that means that you mostly see what they're doing rather than doing it yourself. Even if you are, it's monitored, it's supervised. Some doctor will be with you at all times and will only let you do like maybe 1 or 2 tasks. You can't do what you did during your internship. Okay. If you get your GMC registration when you are doing an attachment, then they will let you scrub in. You can assist a little bit during surgeries. You can do some very simple procedures like Foley's catheter or changing dressing, stuff like that. Okay. All right. Now, the more important thing, residency options. Why the UK? Out of all the countries in the world, why the hell would you choose UK? Well, firstly, because they give you a sponsorship. They give you a work sponsorship to come work in the hospitals. So you don't have to worry about getting a visa. You don't have to worry that you need to have a British passport or you need to be living in the UK to get this visa. They will give it to you. If you get the job, they're going to sponsor you for the entire contract term. There is no RLMT. RLMT was what not allowing international graduates to work in the UK or to apply for residency, the training posts, okay? They removed that and they put doctors in the shortage list, which means they need a lot of doctors. Even though they need a lot of doctors, a lot of people are also applying for it. So there are jobs, but it's just a bit more competitive, and you have to play your cards right, and you have to be smart, and you have to show them why you're better than others. And this RLMT has allowed you to apply for any specialties that you want. You want plastic surgery, go ahead, you're allowed to apply. Orthopedics, dermatology, internal medicine, whatever you want, you can apply for that specialty. This also has the best advantage, which means you will be considered alongside a UK graduate. They do not have the advantage of being British graduates and considered first. If there is someone applying for the post that you're interested in, and he or she is a UK graduate, and you're an international graduate, but your CV looks better, you have a little bit more experience, you have a couple more researches relevant to the specialty you're applying, you have a better chance of getting into the training than he does. I hope that makes sense. Okay. 2 years of intern. So how exactly does the whole residency pathway in the UK look like? We have 1 year of internship. They have 2 years of internship. It's called Foundation Year 1 and Foundation Year 2. Then they have 2 years of core training. This is only for, the core training is only for internal medicine and surgery. So some of the surgical specialties, they start with specialty training right after in foundation year. You don't have to do core training. The core training is good if you're not sure about which surgical specialty you want to go for. It lasts for 2 years and you rotate for 4 months in different specialties. Sometimes you can't choose the specialties you want to choose. So it's basically like internship, but only in surgery. And the same goes for IMT. Core training, IMT, means you do 2 years of general internal medicine, and you rotate through different specialties for 4 months in these 2 years. Then you apply for specialty training for the medical specialty that you want. So let's say you want cardiology, you apply for specialty training again. Then the specialty training lasts for 5 to 8 years, depending on which specialty you're going for. So overall, it takes a little longer to become consultants in the UK compared to Canada or America. But the good thing is that they give you so many chances to really find out what you're passionate about, and you will be considered just as much as a UK graduate that Canada or America does not have. Now, if you're considering GP training, so GP we know as general physician, but then in the UK, GPs are actually consultants as well. You have to do a training to become a GP, okay? And you can do that just for 3 years of training. You apply for it right after your foundation year 1 and 2. So once you're done with those 2 years, you can go ahead and apply for 3 years of GP training, okay? And another really important thing to remember is that at the end of your foundation year 2, which is the mandatory or the second year of internship that they have, you will need a form called the CREST form, C-R-E-S-T. This form basically says that you are ready to go and enter specialty training. So it will let you apply for specialty training. If you don't have that, you won't be able to apply for it. So let's say you think that I've been working as a GP for 2 years, 3 years in Saudi now since I graduated, I can go ahead and apply for GP training after you finish your PLAB exams. Well, no, not really, because you will need the CREST form, and the CREST form has to be signed a consultant that you have worked for 3 continuous months in the past 3 years. Okay, so it has to be 3 months continuous work in the past 3 years. Someone, a consultant level, only can sign that. It does not need to be a UK consultant. It can be Saudi, it can be Bangladeshi, Pakistani, whatever it is. It doesn't matter as long as those 2 terms are filled. And then you submit it to, you apply, during your application, you have to submit the form. And if they accept it, wonderful. You can go ahead and apply to your specialty trainings. Otherwise, you will need to get this signed by a UK consultant. Okay. What options do you have right after finishing your internship? So like me, I'm a fresh graduate. And if you're in the same position or you're doing your internship right now, you're going to do it next year, whatever it is, what can you do? You can do the whole PLAB exam and apply for non-training jobs, which are equivalent of service jobs in Saudi. You can do that, and then you can apply for training jobs that you want, or you can do the second year of internship training in the UK. It's called FY2 Standalone, Foundation Year 2 Standalone program. And Foundation Year 2 Standalone is great if you want to start your whole career in the UK from the very beginning. You'll get used to the whole NHS and you'll be in the training from the very, very beginning of your career. But there are some drawbacks. So let's look at that. First drawback is that it has higher English requirements. You need a 7.5 in IELTS in every single domain. The previous one for GMC registration was just a 7, but this one is 7.5. And if anyone has taken IELTS, you'll know that writing is just so difficult. In writing IELTS, to get a 7.5 is really, really difficult. I just don't know why. It is that hard. Or alternatively, there's OET as well. You can get a 400 in all of the domains. Secondly, what else do you need? You need to have completed 1 year of internship and passed PLAB 1. Easy peasy. That's all you need. So these three will allow you to apply for long listing. And after that, there are many, many steps. There is SGT, there is an exam, there is interviews. Depending on how well you perform in the SGT exam and your interview, you'll have scores and you'll be offered a place if your scores are good or not. So it's not as easy. It's not just like applying and thinking that, oh, I will get a job for training post. It doesn't work that way. You will have to go through a couple more exams, but applying is the first step. It's an experience. Just apply and see if this is cut out for you, if you can make past the interview levels, because why not? You're not losing anything. It does not cost you a single money to apply for this program or any program really for training specialties. It's all free. You just go online, make your account, submit your documents, and wait if they accept it or not. Easy peasy. All right. So we have come to the end of our webinar. Thank you so much for holding out till now. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat box. I'll be really, really happy to answer you anything you want. Okay, are the electives paid in UK? How much does it cost? So, really, really good question. Electives in the UK, you don't really have to pay money, so it depends on which city you're doing it. If you're doing it in London, so London has universities like King's College, St. George's, and I think Imperial. A lot of the UK London universities, they will ask for our money, and I personally do not think it's worth it. You should not be paying for any of that. They ask a lot of money, actually. I think they ask about £150 per week, which means you will be spending £600 just for doing electives in a London university, and it's really not worth it. You can apply to other universities outside of London, like Oxford, Cambridge, Leeds, Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham. All of those are free. Most of those are free. Sheffield, Bristol, they do not take any money from you. They will just charge you for £100 administration fees. That's it. And then you have to maybe bear the accommodation. Sometimes they provide free accommodation or you have to pay for it. But yeah, it's not worth it to pay any money for it. And also attachments. Attachments in London, some hospitals, they ask like £100 every week, and really it's not worth it because you can do it for free. So just do it wherever they're not charging you money. Any other questions? Okay, so how do we do electives, or what's the process? Okay, so like I said, you have to apply when you're a medical student, and you have to be very careful about the timeline. What happened with me is that I had to apply a year and a half before because it was Cambridge and they're really competitive. They they have a very strict timeline. So I applied in 2021 June, and then the entire time for like one whole year, the whole processing was happening. They kept asking for more and more documents and this and that. My vaccination card. It's like they have a long list of things that they want you to submit. And secondly, what is the process? So the process is that you go to Google and search um, whatever city you want. Let's say you want, because I did in Cambridge, so I'll just give example of that. Cambridge University medical elective. And then you'll see that websites of the universities are coming up. Do not go to any other websites. Just use the university website because you have to apply through the university. And then you will see that they have a proper timeline. They will have programs like the specialties that they offer and how many weeks you can do it, during what time, like which months you can take the electives. And if you're going somewhere in between, like let's say September, October, November, December, whenever it is, your medical school is open, it will be a bit of a problem because the electives are usually either 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or 8 weeks long. So you can't really do that. If you're in medical school, you have exams, you have classes, you can't take the time like that. So summer is probably the best option. Or another option would be when you're doing your internship and you can take your leave. That's what I did. Because I had asked my College of Nasina to allow me like if they will accept my rotation, because I had electives during those 2 months. But they said they won't accept it because all my rotation has to be in Saudi, unfortunately. So I had to repeat those 2 months. Like I went on a leave during my internship, and then I had to do the 2 months that I wasn't in Saudi because they wouldn't accept it. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. Anything else you'd like to know? Okay. Uh, Great question. If you want to contact me, so this is my Instagram handle that I use for public questioning. And over here, I'm trying to educate people about the UK residency programs, any questions that they might have, because I faced a lot of confusion when I started out. You'll see so many people on Facebook just telling absolute nonsense. They do not make sense. They will confuse you. So what I do here is I try to stay like give the most updated news you can find. Um, so definitely you can shoot me a message in my Instagram and I'll be really, really happy to help you with whatever you might need, either regarding the PLAB or the elective or something else. I really don't mind. All right, I think we are going to finish this webinar. Thank you so much for sticking out until the end, and I really hope that this has helped you because I tried to make it as relevant for you as I thought I would be helped if I were a medical student. So I hope you found it helpful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'll be really happy to answer anything you have. Next week, we are covering Germany, and Dr. Omar Hafiz will be among us. So if you're interested in German board, then please come back next Saturday at 5 p.m. and you'll find out about it.